The story of Morgan Castle is truly amazing. She is a walking miracle of God.
We, of course, were attending on August 30th. We were attending the morning services here. Morgan Castle and I were, and we had our photos made. It was the photo book where we were making here for the church.
Morgan was leaving just a normal Sunday morning. She sat in the back left section where she always did, and she came through to shake my hand when she was leaving, and she said, "Tim, I'm going to be back tonight for the purpose-driven life."
Morgan was driving separate cars than I because she was going on back to college. So what I didn't realize was she went one way and I went another. There's a couple ways to get to Kentucky to her grandmother's house because she was going to visit there before she went on to college. Strange feeling came over me. I was like, Morgan wrecked. Morgan's in the ditch, something, and I better just start looking for her and looking over the road. So I pulled into my mother's house. I took one step into the house. She was on the phone. She said, this is Alex Forbes is on the phone. He says, Morgan's had a wreck and you need to go back there.
There had been a bad accident and things progressed, and we found out it was a terrible accident and she was really clinging to life.
And in just a moment, just the blink of an eye, on a beautiful sunny day, on August 30th, everything was turned upside down.
We had finished worship service at Sunshine, and I had 2 youth with us that were going to go eat with us. And we started towards Portsmouth, driving up 23. And we got to the Portsmouth Bridge, and then I realized, you know, we couldn't get a hold of the grandparents to make sure they were okay with us going to eat. So what we did was we went up Spring Valley or Spring Hill.
At the scene of the accident, whenever I got there were already a couple fire department members there. She was still in the car. She was still in there, and he was having trouble. He couldn't get the door off. So I immediately stepped up. You know, I guess you would expect me to start bawling and crying. That wasn't my first response. My first response was to start praying.
And when we got up there, there was her van that had crashed into a tree.
I was praying out loud. I just, as loud as I could, it probably shocked the fire department a little bit, the guys, but I think it was a comfort to them. I truly do, because they immediately knew, when they come up on that scene themselves, they knew that it was a life and death situation. You could just see it on their faces.
Morgan, her whole head basically was open wound. You could even see skull. And her legs were not in good shape where she had, been pinned. And she was, you could tell, that she was in pain.
Then I kind of joined up forces with Alex, which was the first person that had actually called me. And at that, it was a God-given moment, because he said to me, there's no cell phone service here, but she told me to call her grandmother, and he said she told me the grandmother's name and the phone number. And he said, I don't have cell phone service here, but the call went through. And I said, yeah, that's God. Absolutely, that's God there.
And we had prayer with Angie and several of them. And then as the more time went on, then eventually I went over to the ambulance and had prayer with her, Morgan in the ambulance before they had life flighted her.
But I think right there at the scene, and I've had it reported back to me from some of the staff members that was at the scene at the time, they said, well, for one, you was the most calmest parent they'd ever had on the scene, and for two, it helped. That prayer helped, and they felt it. It was strong there. I knew it was bad when the trauma physician drops to her knees in front of me, bows her head, says a prayer, looks up at me in the eye and said, I am so sorry this has happened to you. She said, this is bad. She said, we've got her settled. She's in a coma. She's gone to surgery. And everybody, I guess it just kind of stopped, and we all started praying. I counted 56 people in the room that showed up. So many of them came from Morgan's College, which is 3 hours away. They started coming in droves just because Morgan, she's a friend to so many people. I felt There was nothing more that I could do, nothing more that anyone in that room could do except pray. We ended up having surgery after surgery because it was the femur was broken. It cut the femoral artery. Then that had to have surgery on that. She had both lungs were collapsed. She had broken ribs that were pressing on her. Her back was broken in 3 places. So it was just, and you know, that was beside the feet was broken, and the damage that was done to the left side of the body with, and we found out more as time went on, but we knew that she was critical. She was not coherent for about 30 days.
I remember seeing her in the hospital that next morning, and she had a tube in her throat. She couldn't talk, but she could blink. And she wanted that tube out. And the other thing, when we started talking about prayer, do you want anybody to pray for you? She started blinking furiously. And I knew, even though everyone said she's in real bad shape, she may not make it, I could see the courage, I could see the perseverance in this girl's, her will to live.
So I was in the ICU at St. Mary's, and my mom comes in and she says, "I have a video for you to see." I'm thinking, what in the world is she going to show me? And it was a video of all my friends. They had formed a cross, and it was pink. That's my favorite color. And they were all saying that they were praying for me, and that meant a lot to me.
It was through prayer that I believe Morgan is alive and the miracle that she is right now.
Morgan's life was on a path. We had a stumbling block. We had the accident in August. Some of the darkest days that we had ever experienced as a family, as a mom, had been at that point. And there's sometimes it was high and sometimes it was low. She is getting better. She will walk again. We believe it. Those legs, those muscles are going to pull down. We're going to get that foot touching the ground. She's going to walk. May take just a little bit longer, but she has great things ahead of her. We're not sure what that is going to be. She may end up being a full-time missionary. She may end up being a doctor. We're not sure what her life's going to be, but it's going to be extraordinary no matter what, because God has great things ahead of her.
I am a strong believer in Jesus Christ, and so I feel like even though I'm not sure why this happened to me, I feel like I need to be a light to others to show and say, I have been through this, but God brought me through.
The story of Morgan Castle is one of courage, it's one of perseverance, and it's a story that shows us the power of prayer. God tells us you do not have because you do not ask, and there were hundreds, if not thousands of people asking God to heal Morgan's body, and seeing how that has happened in her and how she went from laying in a hospital bed close to death to being this vivacious young lady that she is today. And it inspires us and continues to inspire all of us.